there's a rite of passage. It takes wild courage.
Yes.
Wild.
Your shirt is awesome.
Thank you.
So you sold your car? You did? Was I right about the scammy stuff, or did you sell it to that guy or gal that was looking at it? Was that scammy?
You might have been right about that. But see, the thing is that he kept communicating with me even after I paid. And technically, I needed that. It was smart to have it. I mean, it's a higher price car. You need a lot of people are going to say, can I see the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. What's it called? Verification.
Right. The Carfax or whatever.
Yeah,
but it was something else.
Like, no, just that one guy. And he's like, do you have this thing? And he goes, he did send me a link. Here's some.
So did you get what you wanted out of it?
I did. And it was all serendipitous the way it all happened.
Are we on right now? Are you allowed to say what you bought? No.
It's a surprise.
Oh, come on.
You got to look at it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. When you go out and look at it, you could film it.
We'll take a thing after the show.
It fits me.
We'll enter. Look at that nice car. It's beautiful.
It fits me. But,
does it fit you?
I feel, yeah.
The old one didn't fit you?
It did fit me because I can be anything, but I feel a little more connected to this.
Too much muscle?
Well, that's what I loved about the old one. It's like, to car people, this is like the muscle car. Not just...
Oh, really?
Like, do you know about the Hellcat, the red-eye Hellcat?
I don't know a lot about cars. I'm a simple man.
Okay, well, by default.
But I'm excited to see what you got.
I'm a car person.
So this is interesting because we don't have a guest today. And, but I'm kind of excited because I love just doing this and connecting with you. And
We're the guests.
I'm interested to see where this conversation goes. Can I ask you about your arms?
Yes.
Can you show that to the camera?
What do you want to know?
What about everything? You have like an eclipse on your arm or something. Which camera should we go to, Alexia? This one. What's going on? Elephant in the room, right? Saying the quiet part out loud. What's happening with the arms?
All right.
Thank you.
Here's my thing. You really blew my cover quite quickly.
First thing I noticed.
Well, I do this a lot. I get tattoos randomly.
Okay. But those come off.
Yeah.
Okay, good. They're cool.
No,
but they're not like...
That's not the best thing where you can change them out all the time. And now some people might think you're a fraud. No, I'm not. I have a tattoo story, which is why I do it like this now. So when I'm 18, I get a little tattoo. So cute. Right above my belly button. Boop. Little flower.
Okay.
And then I decide, all right, I'm going to add on to this. And here's my belly button. I get flowers all the way around. So now there's 4 flowers and they're connected by vines. It's really cute. And then I decide I don't want another tattoo. I just want to keep embellishing this one. And so then I get 2 more flowers and a bee. Okay. And I just keep going on about life until one day I'm out with my family in Lake Powell and my uncle's there and I have my swimsuit on. And my uncle's staring at me and he goes, Angela, what is that? And at that moment, I was like, oh my God, I really took a look at this thing. I'm like, this looks like a child squiggled on me. This is a terrible tattoo. And so what I decided to do, Billy, is cover it up. Now, I could have just got it removed. Would have been pretty
They
easy.
do that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Could have just got it removed. Instead, I decide that I'm going to get a huge cherry blossom. I'm not even connected to cherry blossoms. This huge cherry blossom in the middle of my stomach. And so the moment I see it, the moment I take the bandage off, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, what have you done? And so I just cover it. Like I'm always like covering it. And so then I decide to go on the journey of tattoo removal. Okay. You go in and they'll be like, you'll say, how many do you think this is going to take here? Because it's not cheap and it's more painful than the tattoo itself. Like somebody's getting a knife and like dragging it across your skin. And they're like 4 or 5, but we can't make any promises. They'll always tell you that. And so 18 removal sessions later. Now, is it lightened? Yes, it is lightened. But it looks like now I could catch people, like if it's a little bit showing, people are like confused by it. Like, what is that? Is that a birthmark? Is that what's going on there? And so finally, I decide recently to cover it up with another tattoo. But I'm really happy about this one. I find the perfect guy. I think we should even post him because he's so great. He's from Mexico. He doesn't even speak English. I translate to each other, but man, he is a gem. And it's like a sacred geometry looking butterfly that I'm just so proud of.
And you're okay with this one?
I love it. And it's healing in a lot of ways because I didn't realize how long I would, cover this, shield this, be self-conscious about this until finally one day I went to a dinner and I had a little cut-off shirt, lower pants, and I rocked the shit out of that butterfly. And it was like my coming out party.
You as someone you're such a thoughtful woman, like you think through things.
It was a very impulsive decision, the cherry blossom.
But a tattoo is so final. And it's so, you're going to be an 80-year-old woman someday. So like, and it's marking your body. So as someone that doesn't have tattoos, and I'm not opposed, I'm just saying I don't have any. It's so final. Yeah. How do you look at that? I mean, it's forever. I know you can remove them, but you said 18 times, it still wasn't gone. How do you look at that? I mean, how do you look at that? How do you square that, whether it's a cherry blossom or a bee or whatever it is now? Yeah. I was trying to follow the story. I don't even know what it is now. I guess we're not going to show it. Are we?
Butterfly.
It's a butterfly. That's forever.
Yeah.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Back to the moons on your forearms. These are not forever.
These are not forever.
Okay. So what is the thought behind that?
I don't know.
Those are cool.
They seem cosmic to me.
Very cool. I like it. I'm not hating.
Thank you, Billy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So where are we going with this conversation today?
Well, I thought what would be interesting for us to talk about is psychedelics. Because there's just a whole world to explore in psychedelics. And I don't want to just talk about it in this abstract way. I have experiences in psychedelics, and I'm doing a lot of research with the healing aspects of psychedelics. And I would say I'm my own guinea pig, because I always bear in mind, if I discover something for myself, I always feel like when we do that, it's not for us to keep to ourselves all the time. You want to be able to say, hey, listen, I discovered something. And if I would have known this existed before, I believe it would have helped a version of me that really could have used this lifeline at that point. And there's been a lot of taboo around it or trends around it. And it can be used psychedelics in and of themselves can be used incorrectly too, meaning you can get addicted to that. You can think you need that to feel a certain way. And then there's that perfect spot, that harmonic spot where they really can provide access into seeing something clearly that would be a subconscious block for us, that no matter how much we spin our wheels consciously, we don't have access to these blocks.
Okay. So I didn't even know we were going to talk about this today. Yeah. Full disclosure. Yeah. This is interesting to me because obviously we've seen the legalization of marijuana in Arizona. In a lot of states across the country. And now I showed you an article earlier, magic mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms starting to become legal, possibly in the state of Arizona. They're looking for ways to do that. There's a bill out there right now, I believe. It's not, as you said, it's not like a taboo anymore. It's okay to talk about. If we were having this conversation 15 years ago, it's like, oh, psychedelics, it's kind of weird. Now it's being accepted into our culture. Mm-hmm. I worry about a percentage of the population. I don't know what that number is, that it's not good for. And so when you make things legal, even marijuana, they said like it could onset of schizophrenia and different things for certain people. Mm-hmm. So you make things legal and then it's okay by law and society. And then all of a sudden it might not be okay for him or her. Mm-hmm. If you follow where I'm going. So so is it, it's not, I guess you would agree, it's not for everybody. Yeah. So how do you know it's for you in exploration?
Well, most of these don't have nearly the addictive facets as alcohol does. Mm. And that's like, come on, right. Alcohol, everyone. But yet we don't talk about what that causes. And in fact, it's glamorized in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would say this would be the more beneficial realm, all in all, even though you're going to have some situations where it's not going to apply. It's not applicable. It's less addictive, which is the most important thing. Now, I understand, I've seen some certain situations with marijuana, where I've had a few people in my life where I've noticed some things when people get addicted to marijuana from a young age, and then they utilize this plant and how they function in life to cope. And so there are those things where I believe, in what I've noticed, and I'm sure I could research this a little bit more, and I'm sure there might be data on it. But if you start at a really young age, before you have developed sort of these coping mechanisms, and how do we develop coping mechanisms? It's by going through the situation and surviving it. And then we build neurocircuitry that allows us to understand, okay, I've got through this situation. I can survive the situation. So you're more able to cope with what is once a very difficult situation, right? So we're coping, we're discovering how to cope. And if I use marijuana to cope, and then I want to quit marijuana, I haven't built that functionality yet. So now what I've seen, what I've witnessed, is I'm responding somewhat like a child. It's not to say we don't all have these situations, but somewhat like everything becomes overwhelming, or everything is just this grandiose, I'm so angry, and it doesn't really match what I'm angry about. I can explode, or it can come in a few different ways. I can push things away, meaning I don't know how to connect with you, so I'm just always going to keep people here. I can be so overwhelmed so quickly, or I can be enraged very quickly. Those kinds of things can happen. But again, they can happen with alcohol.
Right. And paranoia is the obvious one, right? I mean, people talk about paranoia to the point where they're, especially with edibles that are very popular now, too many edibles, and all of a sudden you're peeking out your windows, and you're getting paranoid that the FBI is, outside, and all kinds of stuff.
Aren't those the people that don't really like it? Because I get paranoid.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that I know that have experimented with marijuana that don't like it. So when you use that word psychedelics, like, define that. What are we actually talking about?
So some of them are going to be plant medicines, which are obvious. They're from the earth. And some of them are more scientific. And it's sort of what the body produces in some facet, or what the body could use to get access into these deeper aspects of life. So our conscious mind is seeing such a small portion of what actually is. Most of it's like buried underneath a trap door. So I mean, I can't tell you that I'm the scientist that knows how to make this shit, but I can tell you that I've explored some of it. And there's absolute, I'll say, awakening potential, and if they're used correctly, like MDMA. I have explored, what's the one, Alexia? It was really big back in like the 60s, 70s.
LSD?
LSD. I finally explored LSD.
How'd that go?
I definitely got insights. And if I didn't know how to be with certain uncomfortable feelings, I could have probably freaked out a little bit, because my mind, I noticed, was grabbing on to like a thought. And then I had to like be with that, as uncomfortable as it was, until there was some kind of surrender. And so I'll give you an example. One, I was with a friend of mine, and I really noticed this self-importance. And I kind of noticed it for myself, and then also like for humanity. This thing that we do with like this self-importance. And that is like, for example, I had this thing on my eye at the time. And then I was also like in a state of just, I don't feel comfortable being around a lot of people right now because of my state of being. And my friend was like, let's just go change the atmosphere and go walk outside. And I was like, all right. And then I noticed, I was like, I don't want anybody to see me. And then I had this thought, nobody cares. Like, nobody really cares. First of all, nobody's going, whoa, look at that girl over there that's acting weird. No, we're all in our own reality, doing our own thing. And nobody's like, what's that thing on her eye? But somehow I was living in this reality that really mattered.
Mm.
And I realized the big picture to that was just not just that moment, but like, whoa, how much does that impact my life in general?
Yeah. So 2 things real quick. Number 1, what was on your eye? Not following.
That was like a sty or something.
Okay. So it was a medical thing on your eye.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a sty.
Okay. And number 2, and this is, I call it, I don't know what the term is medically, but I call it imprinting. So I had a problem with my back a number of years ago. I was at the gym and in the back. Then a couple of months later, I was in the shower, lower back, bad. And it's weird because I feel like really painful. I feel like it can happen more often now because I know what it felt like. I know what that feels like. So it's easier for me not to prevent it, but it's easier for it to happen again, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things like that. It's if you talk to people, and I've done this a lot, in interviewing people that have been incarcerated, been arrested and committed crimes. The first crime, I was like, I'm not sure. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I've already committed a crime. I've already been to jail and gone through the system. It's easier sometimes to keep doing that. So stay with me here. Mm-hmm. So on a psychedelic trip, if you will, once you've done it once, is it easy for you to recreate that chemically in your head without actually consuming the drug? Because you've already gone to that place.
Great question. What I believe you're pointing to is the embodiment of a situation versus the analytics or hypothetical way of looking at something, where you can actually get inside and feel what that experience feels like in your body and therefore begin to integrate it into your life. And the reason why that's such a beautiful question is that is exactly why these medicines are helpful to people, not for that trip, that journey. It's literally for the embodiment, because once experienced, then you cannot unknow that. You're like, wow, I experienced that.
It's in there.
Yes. So there is a method to the madness to integrate these things, because once you awaken something, you want to develop some kind of exercise, way of being, something to keep practicing so that you can build that neurocircuitry, right? Versus otherwise, we're so habitual. And that's how our minds are designed, so that we can stay in the same habit. And that's for survival. The mind believes that if it's familiar to me, that it's more safe. It's just a dated system, right? Otherwise, we are going to go back. But once you get the glimpse, now you can start exercising new ways of being. And there is something you have to generate there. You do have to step inside of that. There is work. All this does is open the door for the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think there's this misconception out there that if you're going to experiment and do psychedelics, all of a sudden it's like, I got to do this every week. I got to do this every month. No, maybe you do it a couple times, then all of a sudden you have that key to the door that you can unlock and then go explore.
Yes. And Alan Watts, he was a great philosopher. I think he passed in the 80s or late 70s. He said, when you get the message, hang up the phone. And I find that was just, and he was speaking to these medicines, these plant journeys. In other words, if you've already received your message, why do you keep going back to get the same message? Hang up the phone and now apply the message. But to add to that, we're always evolving and changing, so that when we evolve into, say, a new frequency, new way of being in life, then there can be new doors.
Yeah.
So if you exercise it like that, you would go explore that again to go see what you're discovering from that point of being.
So why do I talk to people that have experimented or explored, the word you use, that really think this is beneficial? Not only PTSD, for soldiers coming home from war, but people that have experienced trauma in their life, et cetera, people that just need to kind of unlock new avenues in their life and see what's really going on. I get so much positive feedback. Mm-hmm. Why is there still this stigma around it? Why has, I don't even want to say the government, really culturally, we've sort of suppressed this?
Because it heals.
You're going into money, pharmaceutical industry?
I don't like to go too far into that. I let people get their own evidence, but because it heals and all the data shows that it heals.
Okay. okay, we talked about LSD. Define what else you're talking about here. I mean,
one that I'm really researching right now, that they're likely going to legalize. They're looking into this now. It's MDMA for trauma therapies, and really all blocks are some degree of trauma. Sometimes people think of trauma as something severe, like, oh my God, this situation, I can't relate to that. Everybody has some facet of trauma in their lives, right? And so MDMA, gosh, and I'm no expert here, by the way, just like I said, I'm my own guinea pig. And so therefore, and I observe others in these situations. And of course I read up on it. I'm going to have to look even what that stands for. I just know it by
we
MDMA.
Can put that up there,
yeah. Well, what it stands for. But here's what I know, and I'm going to give you layman terms. I'm going to tell you my specific experience. I remember, I was, in my younger 20s, and I did ecstasy probably several times, but this was when I felt like a little more mature about it, and I hadn't done it in a long time. And we were in a setting actually at a pretty known club outside. And so it was busy. And there was a group of us doing this together, and it really activated a certain level of joy in me. And at this point, I was pretty deeply spiritual. So I had an angle of wanting to connect in that way with life. I wasn't being mindless about it. So I was really observing this feeling that I had inside. And I was practicing something. It was crowded. And I would go and target a person. And I would, almost like a tube of energy, direct this joy over to that person. I know this might sound insane, but 100% of the time, the person would turn their head and smile. I know. And this is not MDMA is not a hallucinogen. MDMA is not a hallucinogenic.
I have a million comments right now, but I'm going to wait for you to finish.
Okay, so MDMA is not a hallucinogenic. I want to be clear about that. It's a clarogenic. I think I'm saying that right. But in other words, it clears the fog. It shows you what's actually there. So I remember at this point, I go, it's not time yet, but you're going to come back to this and you're going to discover, what is this? What is this? And sure enough, as life unfolded, I forgot about that. And I came back to it, sort of like came back into my life for research purposes and healing purposes. There was this trauma therapist. I wasn't going to her for therapy, but it was a group of friends. Actually, she's a friend of mine. Her and I are actually creating something together now. She's an author. We'll have her on the show. Her name's Eileen Smith. And we all four have the intention of like exploring this medicine together to see what it opens up for us. So,
what medicine?
MDMA.
MDMA. So this is specifically what you're talking about.
Ecstasy and MDMA are the same thing. It's just that ecstasy was a little muddied down, meaning we don't really know. They probably added a few little things there.
Yeah.
MDMA is the pure form.
Got it.
Okay. Sorry about that. So now we're going in to explore, and here's what I understand about it, and here's what my intuitive pings are. So we have what are called these heart walls, right? And what do I mean by that? It's any way that you're viewing the world where you have some filter that blocks you from seeing it through the purity of love. You have some way of seeing it that's filtered through whatever experience you had. Could have been passed down to you. Could have been somebody died. Could have been the way somebody treated you in a relationship. And now you're filtering things, right?
That's so true.
It's so true.
That's so true.
And so we have these so when you take this medicine, what happens is those heart walls, there's a vulnerability because they all come down, and you can begin to experience what that pure connection is. There's even conversations, by the way, of using this with children that have experienced trauma in therapeutic settings so that they can begin to get a language and embodiment, full circle of what it feels like to feel that purity of love. So when that heart wall comes down and you do things like, put it in context, like I personally like to do like a meditation where you bring some light in. Because as long as those heart walls are up, not only can you not extend the purity of your own love, but you can't receive it either. So when they come down, there's an opening for, and I don't say this lightly, the miraculous.
So heart walls equal, just in my head, equal trauma to me.
Yes.
You're talking about
Filters, that cause trauma.
Previous traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me that these substances, psychedelics, can actually bring those walls down and allow you to expose yourself to new ideas, new people, maybe not being so combative, whatever it is.
100%.
Is the psychedelic, does that just expedite that process? Can't a normal person get there via therapy, meditation, I don't know, introspection without the drug?
Absolutely beautiful point. I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm saying it's a way. Mm. And I would say, in my experience, what I've researched and what I've seen in others is that it does have a kick of momentum to open the door for the work.
Yeah. Okay. You talk about LSD, MDMA,
MDMA, yeah.
So shows how much I know about the subject. Ecstasy. A lot of people also have the stereotype that, okay, these are like party drugs.
Yeah.
I hear like ecstasy, Molly. Like we're at you said a club. We're at the club, we're partying. But for you, at this stage in your life, you're talking about more almost like a therapeutic. You're not 100%. Doing it to go have, like, it's Friday night, let's get wild with my friends. That's not what it is. In fact,
I believe those are two complete different doors.
Okay.
And I the way that I'm expressing it and pointing to it is sacred. I mean, it's treated in a very sacred way, in a sacred container. That other door is literally a whole other conversation. So when people now, that moment in time that marked that experience, that it was somewhat miraculous for me, where with people that clearly they weren't looking at me, and I would target someone. And that's, to me, that's like, what is this? What's even real? What's happening in life? That was a moment in time that had me now create this sacred container, if that makes sense. They were linked, even though I was in a party situation when I did.
So you think that you stared at this person, whoever, was it a man or a woman?
Both. I did it a few times.
It was a man and a woman?
Oh, okay. I did it a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought we were doing. Okay. So, and then they would look back and smile?
Yes.
But I look at people all the time and they look back and smile.
No. Billy, follow me in the story.
I just looked at her. She smiled at me.
Yes, she's the only one in the room with us.
Okay, go ahead. I'm open
follow
to this.
The story. You're in where there's many people, and you're over here.
Go ahead.
So you look at someone. You're not finding someone who's looking at you. You're just finding a random person to connect to. And you connect with this purity. And then the person looks at you and smiles. We're not talking about in a coffee shop where you're right there with somebody. I'm saying in this big hodgepodge, I would look at someone and they would somehow feel that.
And sort of have this exchange.
And they were far. It wasn't close.
Okay, are they on the drug too?
No. This is no.
Okay, probably not.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
Highly unlikely.
Okay, all right.
It'd be like finding anyone in a club.
I know you're not. Clearly, you're not lying. I mean, you're not. I know you.
I mean, you know me.
Lying,
I know some people are going to think that I am. But most people that know me know that I'm not a liar. I wouldn't want to lie.
All right, so can we go to psychedelic mushrooms? Because this is where I'm like, it's like the new trendy thing. It's like buzzy. It's like, oh, I'm sober now. Oh, are you? No, California sober. What is California sober, right? So it's like this whole thing. So where do mushrooms fit into this box?
You know what I feel like a lot of this does, especially so MDMA has the least like triggering experience to it. You're likely to feel safe in that, because love is like love. If we had to boil everything down, my belief is that love is the only truth. And how do I know that? Because when we're in other experiences, anger, jealousy, you just feel how you feel inside of your body, like your cells go. But when we're in that purity of our truth, everything within us starts to relax and be calm and start to be in harmony. And that's how you question the mind. Listen, the mind's been filtered through many things, and mine's the last one to know the truth. But the body, like, feel that. When you're in any, and what is love? It has so many different dimensions to it. Joy, but the loving state, that's the one truth. So
Mushrooms.
MDMA has us access that pretty directly. The reason why I had to clarify that is because these other medicines now can often show you what it is that is blocking you from experiencing the purity of the truth of love. So that can be considered a shadow-like experience, but it's the best medicine that you could ever hope or ask for, because you have to see that in order to experience what you're calling to. You have to see the truth of that. So I'll tell you a story of my own. And I did there's mushrooms, there's microdosing, there's little journeys, and then there's the heroic dose. And that's 5 grams plus. Okay. And so I dabble in this experience because I'm deeply curious. I'm just a curious being. If something freaks me out a little bit, I want to know what's on the other side of it. I'm just like, there's a part of me that goes, I won't be able to go on until I understand what's on the other side of this. And usually it's what's on the other side of fear. What's on the other side of what's known to me. Here's what's known to me. And now here's this unknown territory. And now that unknown gets experienced, what's over there? Right? So I feel like that's where all the magic happens. So I go on this journey. And, I don't want to get too super duper, personal, but there was a memory that came back that I really didn't even know was in there. Right? A memory that came back that I really didn't know was in there. And it was traumatic. It was a very traumatic experience from like a childhood. And I was like, in a sense, feeling the trauma of that. But some people might say, well, why you don't need to re-experience those traumas. But in the moment in time I was going through, which I feel like I'm pretty strong and I'm like, all right, bring it on. But then this situation, I was sort of in the most discomfort I've ever maybe been in my life, because I felt the complete loss of any type of control, of any reality. I couldn't okay, I don't want to, okay, let's snap out of this. All right, had enough of that. I had to sit there and be there and stay inside of that space. But the beauty of that that's why they're called journeys. Once I stayed inside of that space, it led me to another aspect where I could look at that space through a new lens. And had I not had the courage, what's this show called? Wild Courage. Had I not gone into that space, I could have never had the awakening. I wouldn't have known that I was just living my life upon that space. It's just in there somewhere. It's not like I live my life consciously that way, but somehow, some way that's in there and filtering my life.
All of these things, and I'll be honest with you, like when I hear MDMA, LSD, ecstasy, psychedelic mushrooms, they scare me.
Fair.
I like a seltzer. Hard seltzer.
I would dare to say, Billy.
I'm just telling you, it scares me.
I would dare to say it's not the medicine that scares you. It's the unknown that scares you.
It's I know what's probably in my head to your story. And why would I ever want to wake up that beast?
Well, that's such a personal question. It's like, the thing is, we have to move through the shadow to access a freedom that we likely don't even know exists. We don't even know that exists. We just make the best of what is somewhat of an imprisoned life. If we never And I don't necessarily mean address it by talking about it in talk therapy for 10 years and you're just reliving it. That's not how I experienced this. It was, I had to see or experience something clearly so that I could view it through the eye of God. Through the eye of God.
Of God.
Yeah.
Of whatever that construct is.
And if we were to say that, call it source, creator, however you want to put that, the all-knowing doesn't, look at one thing and go, and then look at another thing and go, No, we need all of the things for any of the things to exist. We need the whole spectrum for it all to exist. So there's this law of like neutrality, but that neutrality is love. The whole thing is just love. And I got to see the thread of why that ended up causing so many beautiful things in my life. And I know that seems far-fetched, but I got to see that if I wouldn't have experienced that, I wouldn't have had an awakening to that, and I wouldn't know the depth of that caused me to get to this and caused me to feel this. I'm like, oh. And it was the re-looking, revisiting, recreating that healed the whole lineage of it.
So just curious. So right now, this conversation we're having, you're getting pretty deep.
Yeah.
And I love this because I know nothing about this stuff. If we were on psychedelic mushrooms right now, not a heroic dose, but a pretty damn good dose.
Yeah.
Are we having the same conversation? I've asked you this before, like outside of the show, like, how are we acting? Because like, I know how people act when they're drunk.
Uh-huh.
I know how people act when they're high on cannabis, but how are we acting right now if we're on mushrooms? Maybe we are. How are we acting? Because we're not.
I think
but like,
I think
do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Am I licking the wall? Oh my God, look at the texture. I love the you know what I'm
hear you.
I'm such a beginner.
I think the question is posed and positioned in a way that you can predict what it's going to look like. And the whole point of these medicines is to relieve you from the illusion of control, which is the root of all your suffering.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
I want to know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And so you just go into the experience. And I can't say that any two experiences have really looked the same. Was I ever licking a wall? No. Did I have moments where I needed to stay long enough and just feel safe inside of my body, inside of my being, just feel like breathe and get that I'm safe? Because once you work the muscle that you understand you're always safe, your dying breath, your final breath, when you transfer, you're safe. You're always safe. You're always going to be safe. If it's just the natural unfolding, the flow, there's, even if you have a situation that happens to you, you're like, I can't believe that happened. If you really ever wanted to look at it from the full spectrum, you would see that needed to happen for that to happen. Like that high intelligence is 10 million steps ahead of you. So therefore, and by the way, if we wanted to check why any one given thing ever occurred, you'd have to go all the way back to the beginning of time. So here you are in your mushroom experience, and it allows you to feel in your body that you're safe in the unknown. You are safe because all of life really is, even though you try to box yourself in these comfort zones and make it just so known to you, you don't have the control that you think that you have.
Okay, so if one were to, I will call it a microdose, a non-heroic dose, a very small dose, take a small dose of psychedelic mushrooms and not feel safe. This is a theoretical person. I don't know who I'm talking about right now. And actually feel very unsafe and actually feel very fish out of water like. That's the way that this person would describe it. And not feel comfortable in their own skin. And this is a micro dose, mind you. What does that say, number one, about that person? And number two, does that say that this person should not be going on these journeys? And that's this is real life. I mean, this happened. I did not feel safe. I did not feel comfortable. I felt
on a microdose?
Tiny.
Uh-huh.
I felt like I was a fish out of water, flapping around, and just like, ooh, I don't feel good. Should I eat something? Should I drink a pot of coffee? Take a cold shower? Not comfortable. Okay, not for me.
Got it.
Reject.
Got it.
Red flag. Never try it again.
Mm.
So what is that? What is that? I mean, you're speaking so eloquently. I'm like, yeah, let's do it next week. What are you doing on Saturday? No.
Let me speak to it.
I'm scared.
Let me speak to it. So, cannabis and I have had a similar experience, and I've had some real like difficult moments inside of that space. Like the level of fear is almost hard to even speak about because of how paralyzing it was. So anyway, I'm at this party. And this particular guy that was there, I had heard about him, and he had, I think he owned a cannabis company, right? And so he seemed to be knowledgeable in the world of cannabis. And I says to the guy, so what do you think about this situation? I go, everybody's told me, try this type. No, you just need this type and this type and this type. And every type, I'm coming to the same space where I feel deeply, deeply unsafe, uncomfortable, and like I just want to curl under a rock, and I want to escape my body. And he goes, Consider that it's actually showing you everything you need to see, but you're just looking at it like there's a problem here. I'm putting my own words in it, but from what I remember, going, okay. So fast forward. Me, that guy, and a couple other friends, we decide that we're all going to do this heroic psilocybin dose together, but we were going to get together regularly for about a month to create context for this and really treat it sacredly. And so this one time we go over to his house and he makes dinner, and he has a little bit of, I think it was DMT, and DMT. And he says out of nowhere, spontaneously, he's like, "You guys want to try it?" And me and my good buddy Will, we're always like down, and we look at each other like, "Yeah." So he says, "All right, but I got to sprinkle it on cannabis. I got to sprinkle on cannabis. You got to take, And I was like, "Oh."
What does that mean? You smoking
this? Put the DMT.
Or you
I guess no, you smoking it.
Smoking it.
Put the DMT, and again, I'm just repeating what I believe. You just put it on there, and then you smoke it.
Right, little angel dust or something. Yeah, whatever it is.
I didn't even really see it. I don't think. I just here's the thing, and my friend Will goes first. And he goes into it, and he's like, "Yeah, I saw, shapes and shit." And I'm like, "Cool." And so it's my turn. They say, "You got to take 3, good hits of this." And I was like, mind you, if I were to ever take a half of a hit, I would be in that world that I was telling him about, right? And so I'm like, "Man, are you sure?" And he says, "Well, listen, I purposely got some older cannabis, so you're going to be good." So I take these 3 hits. I don't know what the DMT feels like. I don't know if my friends got all of it. All I know is I'm so far in that world that's petrifying to me. And I'm in a circumstance where I don't feel, we don't realize, we put on little okay, I'm in this person's home. Let me position myself to be in somebody's home that I don't really know that well. Angela, don't just put your feet on the table or you position yourself.
Sure.
And I lost all control of maybe what that mask would have been, or I didn't trust my legs to work to take me to go to the bathroom. I just was laying there. And at one point, his dogs are amazing. His animals can sense this. His dogs are jumping on me, and I'm comatose on this couch. And I'm petrified. I mean it. My friend Will's hanging back, and everybody and we're supposed to have this great dinner. He's been cooking all day. And I want to crawl out of my body, but I'm trapped. I'm literally trapped inside of my body. There's nowhere to run. And suddenly I remember what that guy said. in the previous weeks before. Angela, what if it's showing you everything you need to know and everything you need to see? And so suddenly I figured out some way of going, okay. What if this is the best thing? What if, just kind of use your imagination. What if this is the best thing? And then I'd start to lean in rather than fight it. I just figured out what that felt like. Lean in, lean a little bit more into what's happening versus like, no, that thing. And then I was in between two worlds, leaning in, and then I'd be like, oh my God. And then I'd lean, and suddenly I found myself in the world where I leaned in. Like I went all the way into the world where I leaned in. And Billy, let me tell you something crazy. That went from literally one of the worst experiences ever. That's how petrified I was, to one of the greatest nights of my entire life. I mean, suddenly I felt a freedom like I didn't even know maybe there were layers on me. Like that was just removed. The jokes I had were just like hilarious, like on another level. I'm funny, but this was on. Somebody should have been filming me that. The food tastes like, heavenly. The laughter, the joy, the connection, all the way till I went to bed that night. And that stayed with me of what it is to lean into something versus fight something away.
Mm. So going back to my example of the microdose of psychedelic mushrooms, instead of fighting it, pot of coffee, cold shower, I need to eat a burger, it's lean in, accept it, and then take the ride.
And there's one thing to say it, and the only way you would really get that is in those experiences, because the medicine's always just trying to show you, right? Because that's what you want. You want the clarity of taking this. You don't just take it for nothing. You're taking it because you want to see the truth, the clarity. It loves you. The medicine's part of the earth. It's saying, I just need you to stay here for a minute. But we're so used to our known. We're like, no. But so inside of your body, you'll start to like, okay, what if this is the greatest thing? What if there's no problem here? And then you just start to lean, and then you'll go back and forth, and then it'll shoot you.
I don't know, maybe Alexia can comment on this. Are you mic'd up? Should we do this sometime on camera?
What?
An experience? I mean, is that...
Oh, you mean do mushrooms?
Like the whole, I don't know, something, because like this whole show is about being real and about, just like real conversations, really, about real life and saying the quiet part out loud and having wild courage, right? We talk about this, but those aren't cliches to you and I and to you, Alexia. Like, we really believe that. We're really trying to get somewhere and talk about what's happening on this crazy rock spinning around, right? It's like, maybe we should do this during a show sometime. Do something. I mean, I don't know. I'm freaked out.
It would be cool because a lot of the stuff you find on YouTube is people talking about the experience. And a lot of people who want to try it are always interested in, how am I going to even be? And they don't really see
Well, that's right. We're talking around and around and around. It's like, let's just do the damn thing and talk about it as we're doing it. As someone that's a little bit more experienced on the journey and someone that has no experience and doesn't even know what's going to happen to myself. As long as we're not live and the police don't show up, then who cares?
Yeah.
I'm serious.
All right.
I mean, I'm probably putting myself in a bad position right now.
Well, not necessarily, because then in real time, you can begin to say, what is it? You can begin to illuminate, what do you feel is freaking you out? And then once those things are expressed and unleashed from just this, in me, you're just putting it out. And that's how things get cleared too. And
if I have to get up and leave, and if the texture of this wall is freaking me out and the texture of that wall, I think it's like a jungle I'm going to dive in. If it gets weird, we'll just let it get weird. I mean, that's what part of why I love this conversation is, because we're being real. We're not being censored. We're talking about things that people experience, or if they haven't experienced, they're interested in. Right. And a lot of people are going to see this. What's interesting, when you were talking about psychedelics and everything, as far as why is it being suppressed and stuff, and we're not able to experience some of these things legally anyways, my mind goes to the boomers. It's like the joke online, the boomers, right, older people. I know a lot of boomers or older people that actually they dabble. They might not broadcast it, but you got to remember, those people lived through the 60s and 70s. So they might be way more experienced than a lot of the millennials or younger people. So they know a lot more than maybe some of the younger people watching this know.
I'm going to tell you a little to that. And normally I feel it, I'm just going to say it. So, I did this workshop a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks now. And it was a weekend workshop. It was called The Mystic, and sort of like the certain things that I teach about oneness, and really beautiful group of people, teachings and meditations. It's really essentially what that is. And then, the day after, because this was the first workshop my dad came to, which was really amazing for me. I know.
Are we going here right now?
Well, I'm going to say my mom, my dad, and my friend, we all did in a sacred container MDMA together. And when I tell you, there was, because of, again, the context after the workshop, then we do this that day, we do a meditation on the onset of the medicine. Like in other words, when it starts to kick in, we're in meditation. There was such a miraculous healing that happened between me and my mom and my dad, between me to my mom, me to my dad, my mom to my dad. It was like, I don't want to sound too up in the clouds, but it was like ancestral healing was happening. And the reason I know that is because it's lasted, and it's like, there's such a purity. I've always loved my parents, but this purity that I'm experiencing with all of our relationship, and including my mom and dad, it's something that I could only call miraculous. So yes, they dabble.
Were you nervous to be in that space? Okay, sorry, I'm starting to sound like you. Were you nervous to be doing drugs with your parents?
Not in this context.
Really?
No.
What did you call it? A cartridge or
container?
Yeah. What did you call it? What was
so
that
it's the
term
same thing as
used?
like a context, right? Like you're creating a context around something where it's an intention, and then everybody walks inside of that intention. So you're held in the space of that. So it wasn't like just taking it and all right, everybody just go off and, have so much fun. We were in a container together, and especially coming off what was a very powerful weekend. And then me experiencing my dad and the work, and it was just really powerful. Then we go into this experience, and it was miraculous, man.
I think that's beautiful that you have a relationship with your parents, that you're able to go there. I mean, there's a lot of people, including myself, I'm not going to be doing any MDMA with my mom. I mean, maybe after she watches this, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Never say never.
I won't, but I do think there's something really cool about that. I used to think it was cool. I'm not relating this to your beautiful family spiritual experience, but I used to think it was cool, like when I was in college, or that point where you're like high school, college, you're not quite 21, but you're like 20 and you can't really drink. But then all of a sudden you go to like your buddy's house or your girlfriend's house or guy friend's house, and you're like having a beer with his dad, and like mom brings out a glass of Chardonnay, and you're like, man, we're drinking with, we used to have to sneak it for like 10 years. Now we're drinking with the adults, right? Not 10 years, but you get my drift. I used to think that was cool. And I used to like, oh man, that would be cool if I could like have a drink with my parents. It just wasn't happening back then. And then it kind of morphed into, on the weekends I go up to the lake. I'm like, smoke a little J with my dad. I'm like, you do? He's like, yeah, my dad, like I found it in the sock drawer. We smoke a little weed, So you can smoke with your father? I was like, yeah, but it's fine. It's really chill. And we go back, we make a nice dinner, and that's cool. And now we're here in 2024. It's like, no, I went like on a journey with my mom and dad. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I'm not making fun of it. I bet you there's a lot of people that are probably watching and thinking about the healing. Wouldn't that be an amazing family experience, or even an experience with your partner, your husband or wife?
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
To heal.
Especially, like I said, in the container where which is an intention that everybody gets to point to together.
Right.
And when you're connected together like that, there's a force in that connection.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We were at an event, it's probably a couple months ago now, and we met, I don't know if you remember, we met this doctor, and he has a practice in Scottsdale, Arizona here. And he's a ketamine doctor.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have his card. And I'm listening to you speak, and he speaks very highly of ketamine for the healing process. Not recreational, not just going out to get weird and whatever. Ketamine being a healer for a lot of trauma in your life. Do you put, again, forgive my ignorance, do you put ketamine in the same box as psychedelics, what we're talking about today, or am I just in the wrong lane here?
I don't know that I could fully speak to that. I mean, I've had an experience with ketamine doing it before meditation. One experience of that, and I could see that it would be in the same world. I could see that it would open up something. I've also talked to people outside of being in that conversation. I've talked to people who have had the ketamine experience where they have recognized that it's opening something up. And those people I've noticed were in a deeper state of ease. I've also noticed people that utilize it to try to feel that feeling, like they attach to that to get that feeling. Whereas my belief is that, you want to embody something until you are integrating what you've embodied, and then we don't attach to that thing. So I
people
think
are abusing it? Is that what you're saying?
Like anything, MDMA could really be abused too. Yes, I think absolutely ketamine gets abused for sure. But I would say, in my naive point of view, that it would be in the same world. I just don't have enough of my own experience to really
speak to it.
Yeah.
So if we go back to talking about doing a thing on the show, unedited, and by the way, I'm the one that's going to be, if anybody's going to have a problem or be exposed, it'll be me, because you've obviously, been on these adventures and you've been successful and you sort of know what to expect. And I'm neurotic and crazy. So who knows what's going to happen? What does that look like? I mean, get to the logistics.
Okay.
So we take it and then we have to wait a while. I mean, walk me through the steps.
And what would you want to take?
I don't know.
Is that still okay?
It's something with not initials like MDMA, LSD. That shit scares me. Like something that's like mushroom sounds good.
Okay, so mushrooms.
Okay.
It usually takes about 30 minutes, sometimes longer. I've had some. Remember time, Alexia, we did it, and it took suddenly it was 3 hours later, and all of us were like, I don't feel anything.
So we would come here to the studio.
I got sidetracked.
We would come to the studio.
Yes.
And then we would maybe we'll take it on camera just so people know. And then we would just kind of hang out for a while. And then I'm starting to feel something. All right, let's go.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just see where the conversation goes.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we should book a really square guest. A very serious person.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Square. You know what that means, right?
I do, but I didn't. I was thinking you were going to say something that was a little more free. And now you said the opposite.
The most
God.
boring academic guest. Don't tell them that we're on psychedelic mushrooms, and then they just show up a half hour later. And
Jesus.
Can you imagine?
I don't know. I mean, I'm down. I'm down.
Not a priest, maybe.
I'm sorry. ADD's kicking. Can I just say something? I'm not going to say names because, the whole thing about priests and everything. I reached out, and this is not to call anybody out here locally, but I did reach out to a priest, to his team of assistants, to come on our show and to come have a talk around Christianity and the Catholic Church and spirituality. And I don't know, maybe even we bring up psychedelic mushrooms. I don't know where the conversation was going to go without an agenda. This was not I want to get I gotcha thing and we're going to talk about pedophilia the whole time. No, it wasn't that at all. Just a real conversation. I have been turned down by a very prominent priest here in the state of Arizona that basically stopped returning my calls. And I just think if you are a man of the Lord, of God and of Jesus, and you get up every Saturday morning and every Sunday and you preach the gospel, if you truly believe in that and you're truly a person that, I don't know, at the end of the day, they want more followers, right? They want to convert people. They want to preach what they believe in the Bible. Why would you not come on a public platform to talk about what you believe in? And I think that that's a slap in the face to the Catholic Church, that someone won't come on and speak openly and honestly. Now, if it was something like you're walking into some sort of a really bad situation, I get it. You shouldn't put yourself in that situation. But no, we were here, and I think people know us enough at this point to know that that's not what it was. We just wanted to have an honest conversation, and it was a no. It was a no.
You're just a hard no, no explanation.
No explanation. And
Well, I
I
mean,
think that that's really shitty.
There's,
I do.
It occurs as closed-minded, but I don't know that one man should represent the whole religion.
This is a prominent, very prominent figure in the Catholic Church here in the Valley, number one. Number two, this is a person that's the head of one of the wealthiest churches, probably in the Southwest, right? And number three, this is a person that marries people, funeral service, confirms people, guides people, that a lot of people in our community look up to. And if you can't come on camera without, only what you do on the altar and have a conversation that's not just so structured, that's a little bit more abstract about religion, I lose respect for you. So I really hope that if they see this, they will reconsider. Because I don't like that. I don't like that. To me, I equate it to almost like a politician. If you're a politician and you want to take our money and represent us, you should be able to clip on the mic and talk in any setting. And I think that's the same way in religion. That's my view. And I thought it was a slap in the face. And I thought that somebody like that should be able to come on here and have a real conversation. So not to get off track about psychedelics, but guess what? What if we brought up psychedelic mushrooms?
Right.
What if we brought up whatever? Did Jesus really turn water into wine? I mean, well, you better be able to answer that then. That's what was my first question. Probably why he doesn't want to cut
So, Father, let's get back to the
Can
basics.
you do something with my water?
Let's get back to the
But isn't that to me, that's kind of shitty. I mean, I didn't feel okay with such a public person only being public in their house of worship and not available for public consumption outside of the confines of this place that everybody worships them, quite literally.
I'm not terribly surprised. It doesn't feel surprising to me.
Maybe they'll reconsider. And if there is somebody, a priest, that would like to come on and have an open conversation about religion, about the Catholic Church, then I would welcome them on the show. That's what I'll say.
Too.
Yeah.
I would too.
This was a great conversation.
I feel like it was, yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm more open to the psychedelics or I'm a little more scared. Just knowing myself, I'm listening to your experiences and knowing you as a person. I know that I feel that you can navigate those murky waters easier than me.
I feel like that is what is the glitch. Because that's not really true at all. It's not true. I'm no different than you. Fear is fear. But the one thing that I did discover is, okay, here's that place of fear. Just like you, here's that place of fear. And I've discovered, okay, is it possible for you to surrender in here? Especially because it doesn't seem like you have a choice. Right? And that's it. And then you do that a couple times and even still, it's not that you don't even cross that space again. You cross that space and you go, okay, all right, here we are. Okay. Can I surrender here?
I wonder you've never done this. Have you ever done this on camera?
What? No.
Anything? Okay. So I'm wondering what that will do to us as far as, the truth is, I wish we could show a view this way. We got a lot of lights here and Alexia's got us set up. It's a little bit weird anyways. I can't imagine being on a substance. It's going to get real weird for me.
You just don't really know that.
Just don't wear By the way, can we don't wear a costume on the day we do the psychedelic mushrooms? Because
what is Alexia?
Make sure to wear the craziest outfit.
What is Alexia up to today, ladies and gentlemen? Hello, Alexia. This is the mastermind behind the true rebel,
the best in the business. Yeah, we're gonna end up in prison probably if we do this. But you know what? I think that would be a good story as well. I'm excited for it. Are we committing to this?
Yeah.
I will commit to this.
Okay.
That's the best thing about doing a show like this and not having to work under the thumb of some big corporation or some big people that are telling you what you can and can't do. We can actually do it. So let's just do it. I think it's a beautiful thing. And you gave a lot of good information. You opened my eyes today to working through some trauma, maybe not just by myself in my own head, but maybe there's some, call them tools to explore.
Awesome.
Are you going to explore with us? It'll be like an hour and a half later.
I want to make sure to.
Shit, the cameras weren't even on.
It'd be a real shit show.
Really. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was a great conversation. Hey everyone, we're at the Pad Lab studio in Scottsdale, your go-to for real estate and mortgages. Whether you're buying, selling, or need financing, trust their 2 decades of expertise. Visit padlabaz.com to kickstart your journey. And if you're a pro seeking a dynamic team, check out padlabcareers.com. Let's make moves with Pad Lab.